All right, we're live, Sal. Good morning, man. How you doing?
I'm live. We're good.
Well, I mean, you made it back from your trip to New York, man. So, that I bet that was a really interesting experience, man. And that's what our whole premise of our live is going to be about, man. You going there, the trips, how it was. You went back to Robert's Lounge, the Bergin Hunt Fish Club, your old, Sinatra Club neighborhood. So
Right.
let's talk about it, man. I mean, how was your trip? How did you enjoy it?
Well, Karen and I, we don't like to fly. We really like to drive.
Mhm.
But this particular trip was only going to be 2 days. We had to pack in a lot in 2 days. Like when I did Netflix last year, we drove across the country. We visited all kind of spots. We stopped in Cleveland, saw her family because her mom is sick. This time we just flew out there on Sunday, interviewed on Monday, and on Tuesday we left. Well, what I didn't know, this group from UK, the guy's name was Ross Kemp. They were sort of like they have a budget, they paid good, but they were sort of like guerrilla filmmakers in
And
in,
what
uh,
was that?
in the film business. That's people who don't get licenses. Like you got to have a permit to shoot in New York City. I asked them, did you guys get a permit? No, they didn't have any makeup person. They didn't have any lights. It was four guys with three cameras. And then we went. First place we got was to Robert's Lounge on Lefferts Boulevard in Queens, where Jimmy Burke and Tommy DeSimone and Paulie Vario hung out there. And I think it's now a karaoke bar now.
A karaoke bar, man. Oh
Karaoke
my
bar,
god.
right? So
So
we stood in front of there and they asked me a lot of questions and I gave them some insight to what went on back there 50 years ago.
what was it like then? I mean, when you stepped up to there, I mean, it's been how long since you've been to these stairs? Like, Robert's Lounge, I mean, right in front of that building.
Well, I think that one, it was a long time because I hadn't gone back to Robert's Lounge. I did go back to the neighborhood. Like Robert's Lounge is like 118th Street, 114th Street. It's really Lefferts Boulevard. And then it's only like maybe say 20, 30 blocks to the Bergen. And from the Bergen back to the Sinatra Club is only like 12 blocks. So you
No.
could cover it all very quick.
Yeah.
And they
So
were interested. They were interested in each club and what it was like.
yeah, I mean, so these documentary people reached out to you, and that's why you
Right.
went down there, to give people more of a little background. Is that
Right.
you went out there to do some filming for another, mob documentary. So there's still a lot of interest for this kind of content. You know what I
Well,
mean?
this is a very different documentary. I got to tell you,
What is it?
the people in the UK discovered that, and I didn't know this, that Carlo Gambino and Bruno, Angelo Bruno, together with a famous actor in the 60s. His name was George Raft, an old gangster actor. And he wasn't just an actor, he was like a criminal in the 30s or the 40s. Those three guys had a casino in the UK in like the 60s or 70s. And it
Yeah.
was very, very secretive. So they discovered that. And now they're going around the world. They're going to Colombia, Italy, Spain. They came to the US, and they're going to put together this documentary showing how the UK criminals, I think it's the Cray brothers, if you look those guys up, these two guys were killers, two twins back in the 60s, how the Cray brothers were involved with the American mafia. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, well, take us back to like when you went to Robert's Lounge. I mean, what were the memories and the emotions going through your head when you went up back there?
Well, they wanted me to, give them an insight to who Jimmy Burke was, what was going on back then, and the structure of the Lucchese's, which was Vario, Jimmy Burke, Tommy DeSimone, okay, and how they fit into my life and how I fit into their really cool operation of hijacking. Because the airport from Robert's Lounge is like a mile, 2 miles away. That's how close it was. So I gave him a lot of information about it. At the same time, it was a little bit difficult me trying to think about how I felt until I got in their van, their little van, And then we drove over to Gotti's Bergin Hunt Fish Club.
So,
I think it all hit me later that night when I got back to the hotel with Karen, you know.
what were you
I mean,
experiencing?
well, it was odd. I felt detached. I didn't feel emotional, not at Robert's Lounge. Eventually, when I got to the Sinatra Club, I did feel a lot because I kept thinking of Foxy. You know, we were together 3 years, and then all of a sudden he's dead. I'm in prison, and I go back to the neighborhood, and I probably just buried all my emotions when I left prison and got back. And by that time, I started to see the changes in the mob, what was going on. All the young guys wanted to be mob members, and all the drug dealing that was going on. So
Yeah.
I did have a little bit of emotion when I got back to the Bergen. Standing in front, we probably spent a half an hour, 40 minutes. It was interesting too because across the street from the Bergen was a little coffee shop,
What was
and
it?
there was the guy, a fat guy with a sweatshirt, and it said Sopranos, and he was watching us really close. He must have been living in the neighborhood forever,
Yeah.
and I'm sure other camera crews have showed up at that place. But
Oh,
you
I'm
know,
sure.
here it is, 50 years later, and there's still people showing up in front of the Bergen, and that's some kind of a church, a little church.
Are you serious? A
Yeah,
church
yeah,
now?
yeah. The guy came out; he was like a preacher. So
What did he
first
say
it
to you
turned
guys?
out
Did
to
he?
be a religious location.
So the
I
guy,
sort of marveled at it. After all these years.
so the guy that came out, did he know you guys were going to be filming there that day?
No, no,
No.
no.
Was he?
We were there for like a half an hour. It was cold, and I just told a whole bunch of stories, what went on, what the interaction was between the Lucchese's and the Gambinos, and I talked about walking down the street one day. I guess it was in '73. It was like a group walk with Gotti and Delacroce and Angelo, and
Oh
then
yeah.
Foxy and I and Jeannie following them. We walked on and on down to a little restaurant. I think the
Yeah.
restaurant's name was Guatuccio's. I remember that. They used to go to that restaurant. And you remember little tiny things. Of course, I hadn't thought about that until I got, Zone Park. I hadn't thought about the restaurant.
So when you did get there, I mean, what was going through your head there? I mean, any particular memories or anything
Well,
that
they
you?
kept asking questions. I had to give them, a good interview. So I was very descriptive about what went on in those days. But I didn't feel any emotion. I don't think till the end of the day when I was thinking back. Wow, that's actually 50 years ago.
Yeah, it's quite a while, man, since like you've
Yeah,
been there. I mean, it's been a long, long time.
right. Right.
But I mean, like you said, it's still a kind of a historical spot people go to, and
Yeah,
it's a church now as well. So
yeah,
just like the Gemini Lounge, man, that's insane. You know what? I guess people
yeah,
find, they find to turn things into, what they want. You don't envision. It's like kind of turning the negative into a
yeah,
positive and making it,
yeah,
a church.
yeah.
But
And the thing I thought about though was the door was closed at the Bergen. Okay, so when I was over there by Robert's Lounge, the door was closed, but the door was unlocked, and you'd go in and out of the bar, and then go down to the basement. But with the Bergen, it was always open the door unless it was really cold, because they kept the door open so you had easy access in and out. Yet when I went to the Sinatra Club, we didn't ever leave the door open. We had it locked because there was always money on the tables. We were always gambling. And once in a while, Charlie Fatico, Gotti's boss, would lock up the doors and they would have a crap game in there, just a crap game. Other guys would play cards, but it wasn't like organized poker, nothing like
no,
that. They didn't play any poker there. They played, they had a crap game and they played gin rummy, pinochle like that.
yeah. So I mean, you got to go to both of these places. Just recently. I mean, but you didn't really have to go in there or record or do anything in there.
No, not inside.
Just
No,
on the outside. I mean,
everything was outside. Just tell the stories. I'm sure they're probably going to get some pictures. They wanted a lot of pictures of what I looked like 50 years ago. I go, well, just go online. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff up there. You go Google it.
yeah. Well, after that, you went to the Sinatra Club,
Right.
and you went to there, and you went back there, and when you pulled up there, I mean, what did it look like now? And how was the whole atmosphere like?
I'll send you a picture. I took one picture. It's just a flat, very simple wall. But we did go across the street from where I lived, and I explained what we had on the block, because on the block we had 3 houses, a bar, a deli, and there was this park there. And from the park, they shot across the street to where my pizza joint was that I had in 65, 66. And the Reggianos lived right across the street from the park. Fat Andy and Albert and
Anthony.
Anthony and Francine, they lived right across the street from the park, which is only like 150, 200 feet from our corner where we had the bar. So, and when Anthony grew up, he actually went to the pizza joint that I had, because I think he was born in 53, and I had the pizza joint in 69. So he was like maybe 15, 16 years old. He'd come get some pizza there,
Did you see that, like, so you were in that area? Did you go by his old house or anything with them?
It was right across from the park. I could see the house.
How was that house?
It was just quiet, In those days, it was brand new brick building. It was a nice house. And we had sort of old-fashioned wood-framed houses. And that's the way the neighborhood was.
Was it remodeled then now?
Yeah, some of it was remodeled.
Yeah.
Hold on one second.
I'll go ahead. If anybody got any questions, go ahead and start throwing them in the live chat. We'll get to them here soon. I see there is quite a few in there, so I'll get to them. We're just right now just covering Sal's trip when he went back to New York. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but we want to answer all your guys' questions too. So let's talk a little bit more about the Sinatra Club. So what did you tell them? I mean, they probably weren't really interested in it, you said, because it's not what they're covering, but I mean, what did you tell them about it?
Well, they were interested in the layout, the landscape of the neighborhood. There was that many mafia clubs there.
Yeah.
So I gave them information, and I passed the corner where I had got shot by a cop in 1971. I said, well, I got shot here. And I explained all the stuff. We didn't go to the chop shop locations just a few blocks away. We didn't go to that, but I talked about it. I don't think they'll probably use that storyline, because what they're interested in is the interaction between the Philadelphia guys and the New York guys. But I did talk about time in prison with the Philadelphia mob guys, who weren't really well known until after they got out of prison, which is Chicken Phil Tester and Harry Riccobini. So they were interested in those guys. And I think they were in 75, got out, then somebody killed Bruno. And that's who the UK production company was interested in, Angelo Bruno.
Yeah. And, to let people know, next Saturday, I will be posting our video of Sal meeting these guys in prison in Lewisburg, Harry Riccobini, and then Phil Testa, and then also Salvatore Testa in the visiting room. So you guys can look out for that. I mean, so did you tell them about all this for the documentary? Did they?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I gave them the structure of what was going on in the prison and how all the mob guys got along. Actually, in those early days, 74, 5, there was the Colombo War that had continued. But it really didn't affect the other families. They were just doing their own thing, So that got more intense in the 80s, the Colombo War. And then eventually, it became very explosive with Carmine Persico and Joe Gallo and all of that. I mean, yeah, they killed Gallo in the 70s, but he had people that just didn't want to submit to Persico. So there was always the Colombo War going on for like 30 years.
Yeah, quite a bit of them, man. So, I mean, they didn't ask you a whole lot about that. I mean, they didn't really have to do with
I mean, I explained to them how I had a secret life within a secret life. So, like how I dealt with Cataldo, and we made believe we were just gamblers. We had a gambling business when in fact we were dealing drugs. So then when Cataldo finally took me to meet the head of the family, this guy, Joe Pegleg Brancato, he was the head of the family after Colombo had gotten shot. I'd bring Brancato some money, and that was like what you call paying up. But Gotti had no contact with the Colombo guys. A lot of the other families didn't want any relationship with the Colombos because they were too radical. They were
Yeah.
always killing people.
Yeah, well, let's answer some of these questions, and then we could talk a little bit more about
Okay.
the whole trip and everything. But Pat, he says, "Good morning, good morning, Pat. Thanks for tuning in." He's
Yeah, I
the
was
one.
supposed to see Pat because he's in Staten Island, and we got to stay in Brooklyn. I sent him some extra gifts, so he
Yeah, that's
got them, and he was happy about that.
yeah. He said he got the second envelope, so he said thank
Yeah,
you for the items. They will be cherished.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed them, Pat. Let's see. Paul from the UK. He says hi from the UK. Thanks for
Oh,
tuning in, Paul.
there's the UK guys. So I'm wondering if Paul knows who Ross Kemp is.
He might. I mean, it
Yeah,
might be more popular and stuff over there with, their names and stuff. Let us
yeah.
know, Paul, if you know them.
Well,
Oh, there's Bubbles, his wife, right here. She
oh,
says hello from Mississippi.
CC and Bubbles. We watched football all day yesterday. I was on the phone with Bubbles on and off all day, so we had some fun doing that.
Let's see. Hi, guys. Finland in the house from, how do you say his name, Sal? You want to say it?
I don't know, Jerry.
Jerry, yeah. I don't want
Jerry.
to.
Yeah,
Thanks for tuning in. Joey Bubble says, "Good morning, fellas. Nice to have Sal back. I get to relax and just watch now."
yeah,
Well, thank you for helping out, Joey, last time, man.
yeah,
That last weekend, man. That was good. We got a lot of good untold stories about Sal that, Joey got to experience when he was growing up with him and
yeah,
what it
yeah.
was like. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. It's on our
I
show.
keep Bubbles in the loop because out of the blue, a producer called me from New York, and he wants me to critique movies, crime movies,
Yeah,
to find all the errors and mistakes. And I let Bubbles know about it, and I think we're going to start shooting some of these interviews in a couple of weeks. I probably have to go back to New York. The guy has a great studio, so Bubbles will be part of that too.
yeah. Going back to New York again, man. Just
Yeah, one more
traveling.
time. Yeah, one more time.
One more time before the year ends. Who knows what
Yeah,
next year will hold?
yeah.
Let's see. Pat said, "Do you know when the new documentary will be aired? The one you're talking about, Sal."
Oh, they said it was going to be aired in March, and that A&E put the money up for it. So it's going to be an A&E documentary. It's a worldwide documentary. That should be fun. We're probably going to find out. This guy Ross Kemp was a great researcher and investigator. So we're going to probably find out a lot of things that nobody really knew.
Yeah, probably, man. There's going to be a lot to unpack there because
Yeah.
that's what we need. Something new that will be, that we haven't heard of. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like different new stuff. So what they're doing, what they're approaching, this new angle, I think it will be
Yeah.
really, really interesting to see what they come up with.
Yeah, they're really focusing on the time when there was no casinos in the country except Las Vegas, like
Yeah.
60s. In the
Mhm.
60s, of course, in the 70s, 79, I think 80, Atlantic City opened up, and then you started to have the Indian casinos. But this was the time where there was a big demand for gambling, but you know, gambling was basically legal in the UK. So they
Yeah.
had a legal casino, but it was owned by the mob.
Yeah. Angelo Bruno was part one of them, huh?
Right, right.
Cornbread says Bruno was the boss of Philly.
Yeah.
May have worked with the Cray twins.
The Cray twins, these two brothers were vicious dudes. And, everybody knew them in the UK. And that's what this guy Ross Kemp is going to connect the Philly mob with the Cray twins. That's probably going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean it really will be because I've never
Yeah.
even heard of the Cray twins, so that'll be like
Yeah.
I said, something new, something brand new and fresh to
Yeah. You
cover.
can read about them. They're
Yeah.
interesting dudes.
Well, we got a text here from Denise. She says, "Mob boy sharing his stories of crime, not from jail where there's plenty of grime. Endless stories of New York life, finding God and his care and beloved wife. Podcaster Sal and or with Adrian, his new pal." Well, thank.
Yeah. She's a pretty good researcher. Remember, I met her in 1978, and on and off for 40 years, we've been talking and friends. So,
Yeah, so she knows a lot about you.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, thanks, Denise, for tuning in. We appreciate it. We got one here from Pete. He says, "Did you plan any heists at the Sinatra Club?"
Oh yeah, we were always planning that.
That's what I guess the whole movie, the premise
Yeah,
of the movie was, right?
yeah, we would sit there and Tommy wasn't interested in detail. But Foxy and I would lay stuff out on a piece of paper. We didn't have a chalkboard, but we laid out on the paper. And some of the heists we did, I sort of got excited about how sophisticated we could get because we went and did a heist inside the airport, and Gene Gotti didn't want no part of that heist. It was a watch heist. And he went back and told his brother John. John said, "Oh, got to watch out for that Ubat. He's really wacko. He's going to get himself killed and he'll get Foxy killed." But we were very detailed when we did a heist inside the airport.
Bobby says headquarters, the Sinatra Club. Bobby's pretty cool, man. He's been watching all of our old shows and everything, man. Commenting, leaving a lot of cool stuff, man. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Bobby, for checking it out. He really enjoys the show, man.
Yeah. We'd like to get somebody who could remember going in that Sinatra Club. But we have some strange people who think, well, how come it wasn't well known? Because it was very secretive 50 years ago.
Yeah, it
Most of the
wasn't.
guys in the mob knew about it, not the general public.
It wasn't like an open place like the Bergin Hunt. It
No.
wasn't like a front. You know what I mean? It was literally a hiding spot. Kind of for criminals to hang out. A little hangout. Yeah. But I mean, let's talk more about your trip then. I mean, what else did they have you discuss? And I mean, because it was just for one day, right? I mean, that's really
One day I started at 7:30 in the morning. They said to be there 7:30. I had forgot how bad traffic was. Oh my gosh, it was so bad. So I got there a few minutes late, like 5 or 10 minutes, because I always like to be on time. And it was all good. They were setting up all the cameras. And then we had to deal with noise. We had to deal with the airplanes from right above from Kennedy. But we shot a lot of good footage. And I'm sure they're going to have great location footage, and talk about Ozone Park, how concentrated Ozone Park was with the mafia families.
Did you see any? I mean, what did it look like? I mean, now everything's different now. So, I mean, was there any mob activity that you could
No, I
spot?
didn't notice anybody that looked like they were mob guys, but the traffic and everything is so different. I mean, everything is intense there. And, people would understand that back in the day, I would buy a piece of real estate like a house in Ozone Park, 17,000. And, over the years, I got rid of all that real estate. And now that same house sells for $900,000. I should have bought about 8 or 10 of them.
And it was only 17,000 when you first bought it. What the
Yeah,
damn?
1972, 17,000. Yeah.
Now
So,
almost worth $1 million.
yeah. I mean, it's not even a nice house. It's just a wood frame building connected to 2 other houses. But, it's the location, it's the intensity. I mean, there's so much that goes on there in New York. It's like every few blocks is another world. If you live in Queens, you could go 8 blocks away and never know a soul. I mean,
Really?
it's just so big. My wife, Karen, we got in a cab to go from Kennedy, which is in Queens, to Brooklyn. We had to stay in a little hotel, a Hampton Inn, this little small hotel, and it took an hour and a half to get there.
An hour and a half.
Yeah, it used to take like 20 minutes. I mean, the traffic is bizarre.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Let's see. Pat said, will you have time to meet up next time you come to New York? Missed you the first time.
I might be able to do that because I think I'm going to go to a studio in New York and shoot this television show that we're going to be doing. So we'll see what happens. I'll probably have time. I would bet I could probably be there several days.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Traffic in NYC can be insane. Real estate is over the top, man.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean it all. So I mean, going back there, what did you have much? I mean, I guess you didn't really have a whole lot of time to go and see old places and stuff.
No.
Then besides, the Sinatra Club and the social clubs and stuff. But
Right.
was there any other places you went? Because you went to where you got shot. Where you?
I'm trying to think. We stopped. We stopped at a little restaurant. It wasn't very good. I think the end of the day, I shared some of my inner thoughts with Karen. Because I couldn't talk about my feelings with those guys from UK. They just wanted factual stuff and footage.
Yeah, they
And on the plane back, I talked about how strange it is to go back somewhere after all those years.
So going back there, I mean, you don't really worry about anything, any guys coming after
Nah,
you.
I don't think so. I've outlived most of those guys.
Well, yeah, and you even after you had left, way, way, way back, like after you went into the program, you went back like a couple years later, I think maybe after you wrote the book, remember? And that I sent you those pictures of you when you were young and
Yeah,
40s or something, holding a cigar and
yeah. That
doing
was holding a cigar. That was the Geraldo show I did in like 1989.
way back. Yeah. Let's see. Boris says among the Italians, it was real greaseball stuff.
Greaseballs, yeah. That could be construed as racist.
Yeah, that's what I
I can
found.
take it though; it doesn't bother me.
Let's see. My first house, 80K, now is 1.1 million.
Look at that.
She should have bought it. Yeah, bought more back then. No
We all
kidding.
should have bought a few.
Pete says, "Who's left?" LOL. He's talking about
I
being
don't
worried
know.
about it.
Everybody's older than dirt.
Yeah, Boris said that was a quote from Goodfellas. He wasn't saying anything. I guess he was just making a quote from there.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, so I guess when you went back and everything, it was nice, smooth, and no hiccups. I mean, I guess you just went there and stayed pretty busy for the most part.
Yeah. Karen and I got to the airport in Vegas, and we got there early. And I was talking to a couple of guys, young guys, like 35-ish, and told them about the podcast. Oh, we're going to start watching. So everywhere you go, you talk about this stuff. It's so historical. People want to know about it. Well, it's so long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a lot of historical to it, and that's why there's so many people doing documentaries and stuff on it now and trying to unpack it and figure out how things went down. And
Right.
that's kind of what it is. I mean, really, but I mean, when you went and you enjoyed going there and being back there for a little bit, but I mean, it's not somewhere you want to live and spend out your days now.
Yeah.
You don't really want to stay there. It's just too cold, you said.
Well, Denise, who just came on here, and I met her in 78. I believe it was the fall of 78. I flew her into New York, and she stayed in my secret apartment. And I took her around Ozone Park to all those areas and showed her where we hung out, and then took her to this popular restaurant. So she would have different memories than everybody else, because she was absolutely amazed about the amount of Italians in that little community, mostly all Italians.
And it's all kind of changed now, I'm assuming. Not
Oh,
so.
yeah. It's everybody across the board. People came in from every country you can imagine.
Oh,
It was just very different, that's all, than when she was there in the 70s.
Pete says, did you see anyone you knew from back in the day?
Not a soul. Nobody, no.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is 50 years ago, so it's definitely a long time ago that you've been there. And I mean, imagine so much can happen in just a year. I mean, imagine 50 years.
That's right. I'm lucky to be alive to talk about it. Really.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of many guys to go to connect these crimes and these families and tell these stories and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's why they're apparently going to you, man.
Yeah.
Let's see. Boris says, was that in Bath Ave, Doc, beating a witness? Do you know what that is? Is that something you did?
Was that you in the Bath Avenue dock? I don't think that was me in Bath Avenue. I know the area, but I didn't. I don't think I did any work in that part of Brooklyn.
Dean said, Cray twins had a meeting with the Philly mob. They met Bruno. Ronnie Cray had mental health problems. Reggie went to Philly, met a gangster feeds people to his tiger. Long story. Damn.
Yeah, this guy Dean, for example. Where did he find this information? But I guess it's out there.
Yeah, and probably look it up or Google or something. But still, I mean, people know somewhat about this whole.
That's right.
topic.
most of the public's not familiar with the craze. But I do know that they actually, yeah, the craze actually guarded Sinatra when Sinatra went to the UK. I heard that from these producers. They did a lot of research.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're gonna do a whole documentary and put in all this time and everything, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
that's absolutely true, man.
yeah.
This Bobby says, Sal, did you know Larry Rolla?
I didn't know Larry Roller. Where was Larry Roller from?
Well, he's I interviewed him a couple weeks ago. I put it
Oh,
out
okay.
there, and I know Bobby watched it, but Larry, he was a horse racing kind of guy. He fixed races and stuff for the mob and knew Gotti and
Yeah,
stuff. But this guy's like 84, 82, so I guess you could say maybe a
yeah,
mob associate, but because he would hook up races and knew a lot
yeah.
of guys, but he wasn't deeply involved with the mob like that. I mean, he did his own kind of things, but it was a good interview. I enjoyed it.
Now that you mentioned horse racing, I do have a couple of horse racing stories that we could get into because as I passed Aqueduct Racetrack with the UK producers, I started thinking about, stories I really didn't talk much about. And I have a great story about the famous Billy Joel.
What do you got?
Oh, it's a great. It'd be a whole segment. Billy
Oh,
Joel. Billy Joel got ripped off by his brother-in-law. The brother-in-law's name was Frank Weber. Billy Joel's wife was Elizabeth. Now, when Bill Mencken comes on, he was really close with Billy Joel and Elizabeth. So Mencken and I got to talking. And what Mencken didn't know is that this guy Frank Weber ripped off Billy Joel for like 12 million.
12 million.
He was hanging out with a Jewish guy that was a real corrupt, scheming fraudster. And the guy ripped off 30 million out of banks. Well, I'll tell the story about how I did some special work with this millionaire. And what the millionaire told me was back in the 70s and 80s, and Dominic Cataldo, told me that he believed this was all true. They were buying and selling horses, and they would wait to the winter time when it was a storm season and when lightning came. Then they would electrocute a horse who they insured for a lot of money.
Damn, man. So they were doing some
Oh, they were
crooked,
doing
even more
stuff.
crooked shit.
Yeah, and I'll talk about the guy's name was Erwin Feiner.
Well,
Somebody could look him up and look at what he did. He ripped off 28 million, and eventually, he died. But I did some secret work for him, and
yeah.
and I'll talk about it one of the days. It's one of those things I didn't put in the book. It's just another story. And then people say, "Well, how could you do all these things?" I mean, I had 24 hours a day to do whatever I was doing. Never had a job. So when people listen to these podcasts, oh, there's no way Sal could do all of that. Oh, yeah, there is a way. I mean, I was involved in all kinds of things. People don't know what Jewish lightning is.
No, I don't even know what that is either.
A lot of Jewish guys in real estate would buy a house and then burn it down.
So arson and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I was pretty good. They call those guys in the mob. Oh, that guy's the torch. He burns buildings. So I mean, there's so much that I never put in the books, and so much. I mean, I don't have a problem talking about it because I didn't burn down a building and kill anybody, But that was for money, for profit.
Yeah, and that's something, after we cover more of these Lewisburg guys, because we're getting close to wrapping up all the Lewisburg series we've been doing,
Right.
About all these guys you're in there with. But, that we'll start getting into more of your day-to-day, just crazy stuff.
Day-to-day operations, yeah.
Yeah, just kind of doing whatever, man.
Burning buildings down for profit. I think, some of those things I completely have forgotten about until I pass the neighborhood and think about, oh, I remember that building,
Well, you talk about your friend Bill Mencken, and, he's going to be the guy we bring on next Sunday. So
yeah.
a little background, just give a little background on him for
Bill Mencken had a famous radio show in, I believe, the 60s and 70s. And he was actually a professor at NYU. He taught screenwriting. And so he and Scorsese and Mark Martin were professors at NYU in the 60s. And so when Bill Mencken was vice president of Warner Brothers Records, and he gave Scorsese the job to get the music for Woodstock. That's how far back, Mencken goes with Scorsese, and he was in a bunch of Scorsese movies.
So yeah,
So
just a really well
interesting
connected.
guy, just an
Yeah.
interesting guy. He got
A
1,000 stories. He hung out with De Niro on a regular basis. He hung out with Harvey Keitel. I mean, this guy was friends with all these people. So, and he's still friends with the guys from the Who.
So a really well connected guy to the
Yeah,
industry. Yeah.
in entertainment. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
He'll be good. He'll be a good interview. Let's
Yeah.
see. Jacqueline says, "Good morning, guys." There she is. She's always supporting the show, always tuning in, and always
Yeah.
sending those super chats. She sent in a super chat yesterday, man, for $10.
Good. Good
Yeah,
morning, Jacqueline. We're going to have some interesting guests coming up here pretty soon. And this is talking about a guy for next week. His name was Bill Mencken. And I met him over 30 years ago. And I wrote a couple of screenplays with him. So, yeah, he got great stuff, Hollywood stuff. I mean, he's friends with Stevie Wonder for 50 years.
Stevie Wonder, damn.
Yeah. Yeah, he got a great Stevie Wonder story. So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Let's see. Boris says, "Was it Robert Lino doing stock scams in the '90s and breaking legs? You know
I
anything
didn't
about
know. I didn't know that Robert guy. No,
that?" No.
no.
Let's see. Harlem says, "Top of the morning. Thanks for tuning in."
All right.
Bobby says, "LOL. I know what that Jewish lightning is. Done a few
See?
jobs for my Jewish associates." He said.
There you go. Yeah.
Let's see. Pete says, "Sound any more young Gotti stories on the burner?"
I'm not sure. I think there's a lot that the general public doesn't know about John Gotti, and I mean, they had a bunch of brothers. Gene Gotti was legitimate. He was deeply entrenched. Peter Gotti, he was a New York City garbage man. That's what he was. And there was Vinny and Richie. I mean, yeah, I knew them all. I mean, there was a whole
How,
bunch of them.
how many siblings did he have that were in the
Oh, I don't
mob?
know, 11 or 12, something like that.
How
His
many of them
mother,
were in the mob, though?
oh, they were all around it, but
Yeah.
as far as made members, I don't. When I actually left New York City 81, 82. That's why I never ran into Gravano. I don't
Mhm.
believe Gravano was even close to Gotti until maybe 84, 80, maybe 83, 84. I was already living upstate New York. So, but there's a lot of little information that people don't know.
Yeah, Pete said you made young Gotti very interesting in the Sinatra Club.
Yeah, he had a force. John Gotti had a personality. I would say it was a combination between the Pied Piper, Jim Jones, who made people drink Kool-Aid, But Gotti was very effective. He could have been an actor, I think. He just had this presence about him. Very chameleon-like. He could play any part he wanted to play. As the older he got more polished. And I
Yeah.
think people misunderstood who he really was because he just wanted to be, a mafia boss. That's what he wanted to be.
Yeah, that's true, man.
Yeah.
Let's see. My dad says, "As always, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning."
Good morning, Chris.
Another one from John. He says, "Hi, Salvatore."
Good morning, John. Maybe we'll talk about the Kennedys soon. You made me think.
Boris said, "Did Tommy DeSimone throw darts at other players when losing poker?"
No, he didn't. He didn't do that. Thinking about what happened with losing hands in poker, John Gotti would take the cards and rip them in his mouth and throw them on the floor. And that would be, I want a new deck of cards. He's pretty superstitious about gambling, John was.
Yeah, I guess that's why you got so many of those damn cards that were.
Yeah, so many decks I had. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we sold a deck of them to
Pat,
and then now, we got 7 more orders,
Yeah.
That people wanted.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
There
there's
was a lot of
some.
guys who played poker. We would open up the deck and use them like 1 or 2 times to go fresh deck. And I had a little cardboard case behind the bar, and I'd throw them in there in the back behind the bar. And they laid in there for a couple of years. I didn't throw them out. And then when I moved, I had a whole bunch of stuff that was in storage, and I gave them to my sister who lived in St. Louis, and they sat down there for years. And I remember my sister saying, I have your graduation book from the U.S. Marine Corps from '63, and it was in this box with a whole bunch of old collectibles, and there was all these decks of cards laying in there after
Let's
50 years.
Bobby says, how did the prosecutor get away with outlining Willie Boy Johnson like she did? Pure rotten. She was doing that to boost her career.
Yeah, he meant outing her. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, he meant outing Willie Boy.
Oh, okay.
Well, what happened was Willie Boy was given information all those years, and then she got a hold of the police reports, NYPD, and the government FBI 302s they call them, and she just decided that if she revealed that he was undercover informant for all those years, giving information about Gotti and Angelo. It was Angelo that he hated. I think he admired John Gotti, and I don't think he told all. I think what died with him was some of the things he did with Gotti that he never admitted to. So that prosecutor, Diane Jackalone, she figured, okay, I'll reveal what he was, and he'll flip. It didn't happen. And there was a great scene. I don't know if it's any books, but I heard from the FBI there was a great scene in prison where Gotti was in a cell and there was bars between him and Willie Boy. And he told Willie Boy Johnson, you have my word. You'll never get hurt as long as you don't testify. And Willie Boy Johnson, he bit on it. He believed Gotti. And that was it.
Yeah, I think that was played out maybe in a movie or a book. I can't remember. I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about, though. I know that
Yeah.
scene that you're saying.
Yeah.
Pat said, those cards are awesome. Sal signed every single card. I have two poker chips and two signed tickets by Sal from two of the shows he did back in the day. Look at
Yeah,
that.
I sent them some poker chips. What happened was these weren't the cards were original, but the poker chips, I reproduced some poker chips and put a Sinatra Club logo on there, and we used them in the movie Sinatra Club. So I had, maybe a couple of hundred of them, and I sent him a few. I still have some. A few people asked me, why don't you reproduce them and give them out? So maybe next year we'll give out some poker chips when people sign up to listen to our podcast.
Yeah,
We'll mail them something.
yeah, give him something, man. Pat said, why did Tommy kill Foxy? This is a kind of common question we get quite
Yeah.
a bit, man.
I was in prison. I don't know, but I did want to tell Adrian, guess what? I talked to Foxy's niece.
Oh, yeah.
And on the 11th, I'm going to do a conference call with Foxy's niece and Foxy's nephew. And
Really?
they want to know all about Foxy. I don't know what really happened. I heard from Angelo that Tommy killed Foxy. That's what I heard. But I'll tell you this, back in the day, we would go to bars and stuff. Foxy was not, I'm sorry, Tommy was not a good brawler. He wasn't a brawler. Foxy was the brawler. He could break your jaw with one punch. And I was the guy who liked to brawl on the floor with big guys and get on top of them. Foxy was taller than me because I had to borrow a white suit from him once to go to Puerto Rico with my wife, and I had to pull it up like 3 inches high because he was like 6 foot tall, and I'm 5'9", But yeah, Tommy was not a fighter. I
No.
think that's why he became a killer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that could definitely be why. Other
Yeah.
reasons too, I suppose. But
Yeah, I think the same with DeMeo from what we learned, because I didn't know DeMeo in that capacity. I knew he was a mover and a shaker with stolen cars. I didn't know anything about drugs. I didn't know anything about murder. People have to realize when I talk about this life back then, everything was in segments. You didn't share your car business with the drug dealers you had. And you didn't share the drug business with the car dealers. You didn't share this information. That's the way it was. It was very secretive.
yeah, and it was probably better like that, huh?
Yeah, sure.
Let's see. Pete says, so you didn't see any situations between or static between them.
No, because we were crime partners. And like I told my wife one day, I had this fancy blonde gal, and they watched me get too close to her, and they figured, oh, you're putting the girlfriend before us. And so we had done a fur truck hijacking, and all of a sudden one day, I was missing for a couple of days. I went off upstate New York with the girlfriend. When I came back, they made fun of me. Ha ha ha. We went and stuck up the fur finishing company, Foxy and Tommy. And you're out there messing around with that girl. So you don't get a piece of the pie. Well, what Tommy didn't know was I was making a lot of money with drugs. I really didn't even have to steal. And of course, Foxy wouldn't give up that information. But they figured they'd teach me a lesson. Oh, after that, we did some more hijackings, you know.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure. Let's see. Gary says love triangle.
Yeah, yeah, I got in trouble with that one. Oh, yeah, lots of trouble.
The bigger they are, the
The
harder,
harder
they
they fall. Yeah, yeah.
Top feed Coco says, I'm late. Well, thanks for
You're
tuning
on
in.
time. We're still going here.
Yeah, we're still going. Let's see.
Oh,
Hi from Norway. Look at that, man.
yeah. Hello, Norway.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Let's see. Harlem said how long it takes to be made in Omerta.
Omerta.
Fucking
Yeah, that's
butchered
a
it.
secretness. Well, you know, back in the day, it all changed. They had, I heard a lot about the little celebrations and the procedure of pricking your finger with blood, and then you take an oath and all that. Everybody knows. When I did Sinatra Club, the movie, we actually used the real Joe Pistone, the guy from the Donnie Brasco movie, the FBI agent. We used him to give us information because they had bugged a lot of Italian social clubs and they had inside information about the ceremony of getting made. So I spent time on the phone with Joe Pistone 15 years ago.
Boris said family members get made quicker.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it was. You know, Boris, years ago, they wanted just family. And then I don't know exactly when it started to change, but a lot had to do with the money that the drug business was generating.
Pete said, was there any proof that Tommy clipped Foxy?
I don't know. I mean, I've got to tell you, my mentality was I was crushed December 18th, 1974. My wife came to see me and said Foxy was murdered. And then I believe it was that night or the next day, Angelo was there. He already knew. And we had conversation. And I blurted it out. I wasn't even going to think about Foxy being murdered because that's the way I handled my life back then. You know, I just didn't want to think about it. I had to move on. Just move on. And that was it.
Michaela says, how's it going, Sal?
It's going good, Michaela. How are you?
Sal, how did your club get a pass with all the different families during wartime?
Because there was no other place to play poker. And, you know, we started out 25, 50 cents. Then I added another table because we started on Monday nights. In those days, Monday Night Football started at 9 o'clock at night. So the guys would come at 6 o'clock and have some chips and beer and soda. And then we'd wait till 9 o'clock. And usually everybody went home at 9 to watch the game. Well, then within a month, we started having $5, $10 card games, you know, another table. And then by the time Gotti came, which was February of 72, because we opened up on Thanksgiving weekend, 1971. And all we could talk about was D.B. Cooper jumping out of that airplane with that money. He skyjacked the plane. So in a few months, we had customers, and that's how it worked.
Yeah, D.B. Cooper, man. So yeah, they loved him, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, the whole Sinatra Club, I mean, it would be cool to have some kind of insider that was inside there with you and stuff.
I noticed a few weeks ago, Thanksgiving weekend, right before that, they had a Cooper Con up in Oregon.
Oh, remember you telling me about that.
Just to celebrate D.B. Cooper. It's called Cooper Con. It's like the third year. So I said to Karen, we should go up there because, you know, unless people would really know how much the Italians and the mob celebrated Cooper. They thought it was the greatest thing in the world. He jumps out of an airplane, they never find him.
Let's see. We got a couple more over here. Michaela said, can I ask a question? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Please do.
Top Feed Coco said, "Did you guys have house dealers or pass the deal?"
We passed the deck around. That's the way everybody liked it. And we did find one guy that was sort of like what we called back then a mechanic, and we had to watch him because he could deal off the bottom of the deck. So we watched him and we warned him, and then he didn't because he could shuffle cards and read the cards. It was pretty amazing.
Really?
He could shuffle the cards a few times and get aces on the bottom. And he was pretty slick, and we watched him.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
Let's see. Cornbread said, "Morning, Sal. Our morning, guys." He said, "Sal, did Dominic Cataldo work with his blood family, particular? How do you Angie Cataldo,
Augie Cataldo.
of the Genovese or the Romans or Russos?"
Romanos and Russos. Cataldo was very secretive. He didn't share all that he was doing ever. And on occasion he did, like the time him and a guy named Tutti Franzese. Nothing to do with Michael Franzese, but the same family. Tutti was a big guy, and they were waiting to kill someone. And Cataldo told me, "Okay, you got to go dig a grave." I went out to Long Island, I prepared the grave, but they didn't kill the guy the night that he was supposed to get killed. But he shared information like that, but not all the time. He was very, very secretive about his things that he did.
Yeah, so let's see. In this one, I'm sure you know this one, Sal. She said, "Where is Jimmy Hoffa, or where do you think he is?"
I don't know. In 1989, I did a show with the bizarre Matt Lauer, and Matt Lauer asked me where was Hoffa. I go, I don't know. At that time, they thought he was in the Giant Stadium, but it's all rumor. Who knows what really happened?
I know they go everywhere with all kinds of. They're still going on about it, because they never found it, man, and it continue to be a hot topic, man, for people to want to figure out where he's at.
I don't think they'll ever find any body. I don't know.
What do you think?
I would guess in those days you'd put him in the back of a trunk of a car, and then they would send the car and get it crushed up to a little cube.
Yeah, kind of like you said, they were doing at the. Who was doing that? Carniglia, as you said.
Charles Carniglia. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Top Feed Coco said, "I always hated house-style games where I have to deal. Makes it hard to play with your hand from best position."
Yeah, I guess. I mean, some people like to have one dealer, but we didn't pay one dealer. We weren't going to let anybody in there that we considered trustworthy enough to deal the cards. And besides, in those days, all the mob guys, they want to deal the cards themselves, because the game, you had to choose the game you wanted to play as the cards came to you. Did you want to play 5-card stud? Did you want to play 7-card poker? Did you want to play a game called No Peek, crisscross, around the corner? We had a whole variety of games that we played.
Bobby Bright says, "Was Joey Pipes very talented or not?"
Yeah, we had a guy there in the Sinatra Club who could sing. But, there was a lot of guys in the day that, for instance, they didn't have the balls to go out, take a gun, and go rob. So they had some kind of business that they got involved in. This guy had a good voice, so we let him sing in there a little bit.
Boris said, "Did Tommy Agro chop off hands of those who stole from his bar cash register?"
I used to go, the name of his bar was called Sebastian's. And Foxy and I would go there because it was located in a little place called Forest Hills, which was only about 8 to 10 minutes from JFK. And what was unique about Tommy Agro's place, and I didn't even know he was a made guy. He used to dress up every night, but he was a little short, squat guy. And we would go there because there was lots of flight attendants going there. And in those days, you didn't call them a flight attendant. You called them stewardesses. So we used to go there and hang.
Damn, yeah. So, I mean, I remember you told me you went there and hung out, a couple times and met a couple different guys and stuff, but nothing, on a criminal level.
No, we actually saw Manny Gambino there.
Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah, Manny Gambino was there.
Yeah.
Cornbread says, thanks for the answer. Any Dominic, how you say that?
All the stories. Not, I didn't know him. Didn't know him.
Cornbread, what family was he with? And I mean, give us a little more information. Maybe we could expand on it somewhat, man. But he sent in the super chats now. He sent in the
Yeah,
$5 super chat.
yeah. I
Thank
just
you.
didn't know. There's so many guys you didn't know because it was so spread out,
Hmm.
and you didn't talk to mob guys you did know about other guys and who they were, what they were doing. I mean, everything was really hush hush in those days.
Yeah. Pete says, Sal, was there any time back in the day you ever thought your life was in danger?
Yeah, a few times. One of these days, I'll share the story with Adrian and our whole group that watches about the time that Gotti and Cataldo thought I might have ripped off an Italian drug importer. So there was a time I had to tell you that I didn't think I was going to become like the victim of, putting to sleep a rumor that somebody ripped off $1 million. And I'll go into the detail how that all happened with Foxy and I. But
Yeah.
thank God they found the real guy. They tortured him. He gave the rest of the names up. And I will tell you about one of the guys that was a greedy person that we knew. And we'll do one of these days. We'll do a story on this guy Nunzio who they chopped up.
Damn. Pat said, do you know what happened to the woman who played your love interest in the Sinatra Club?
Well, to be very honest with you, since I got with Karen 8 years ago, uh, she's the only person I let see who this woman turned out to be. I won't reveal her name, what happened to her, but generally, I've never had conversation with her again from the '80s. But I did find out what happened to her in her life. So, and it worked out pretty good for her. So,
I'll be damned. Yeah, I guess I never even asked you that one.
well,
That's a good one,
some
Pat.
things I'm just not going to talk about.
Let's see. Bobby says there's a documentary with Trevor McDonald,
McDonald.
mob wives, I think that is, and one of the wives said her husband told her Hoffa ended up buried at the new bridge built. Sorry, I can't remember what bridge or her name.
I don't know. We think about things like that. I could flash back to a John Travolta movie where he was looking at the Verrazano Bridge and he said there was a body down there. Something. You never know what guys were doing back in the day, really.
Yeah.
So that's a little bizarre.
Cornbread had a follow up. He said, is it true Colombo members were made when the books were closed?
I'm not really privileged to know that because by the time I left New York City in 82, I wasn't paying attention. I had no interest after my prison term to become a made guy. I was sort of sucked in by Cataldo because we had this drug business, but I was backing off, backpedaling all the time, get away from these guys. They were very dangerous. Mob guys were dangerous. They were jealous, they were vindictive, and they were treacherous. So you had to sort of back away and not get involved with too many people.
Parrish, I believe that's how you say his name. He said, good to have Sal back. Any word on when you're going to get Ed McDonald on?
Oh, I got to call him this week. I got to call him. I was going to call him because I was 5 minutes from where he lived. He was in Brooklyn.
Damn.
I just didn't have a chance, but I do have to call him and get him on. He's a great interview.
Pat said, very understandable, Sal. Glad it worked out for her.
Yeah.
Oh, this one's a good one. Did Greg Scarpa ever go to the Sinatra Club? Oh, man. What a
No,
trip that'd be.
I knew about Scarpa in the 70s through Cataldo. And what was weird was, I want to say, after my book came out in 12, I got an email from a publisher and said, we're doing a book by a girl named Linda Scarpa. Would you talk to her? And can we send you the manuscript so you could critique it? So they sent me the manuscript. It was a great story. Boy, what a story this gal had. And that was his daughter, Linda. And I talked to her for a couple of months. And it's interesting what happened to her personality, because I don't think any man could ever live up to who her dad was.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't want to, you know.
Yeah.
Gavin says, who is your favorite mob boss and why?
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know the bosses. I mean, the guy that I reported to was the temporary Colombo boss, Joe Brancato, and I'd go to his house, and he was very mannered. I liked him, but I didn't think about other bosses. It's not what I did. It wasn't for me to go interact with all these families. I mean, Cataldo got around more than I did. I just wanted to be in the shadows back in the day.
Yeah, not really be up in there because I mean you're doing your thing with the drugs, and
Yeah, exactly.
at that point, you mean you want to stay away from them
Yeah,
bosses,
yeah,
not getting deep with them because then they'll start looking into you, man.
yeah.
Let's see, but yeah, I mean we're at the hour mark. I mean, what else about your trip? Do you have any other things you want to talk about on your trip?
Well, I talked to my brother. I went out to see my brother in Long Island. I have all these nieces. And I just said to Karen when we finally got back, I don't want no part of Brooklyn ever again. I don't even want to be there. So, if I have to go there, if I'm going to do television or something like that, we'll go. We'll spend a few days. But oh my gosh, the traffic it's amazing. I just don't remember it being that intense and that, you know, congested. The place is so out of control for me because I live quietly, out in the middle of Arizona, which is okay. It's quiet. We love it. We come to Vegas. We got friends here. She's got family here. That's okay. But New York City, it is not for us.
Not no more, man.
No.
Let's see. Bobby said, "What happened to Cataldo?"
He got convicted with Carmine Persico on the commission case, and he died in prison. And ironically, I said that to a couple of writers, producers. I want to say, but every hitman that I knew basically died a miserable death, like cancer or whatever. I mean, go read the story about Scarper, how he died. Terrible, terrible story.
Well, yeah, and I mean that was how me and you kind of started our show. We covered the
Yeah,
10 hitman, that we wanted to cover. I mean, you knew a lot more, but I mean,
yeah,
our most popular one we did was the one about
yeah,
Tommy D. Simone, and it's working its way
yeah,
up to almost 100,000 views. So
yeah,
it's getting up there. I know it's in the 80s right
yeah,
now, but it's still
yeah.
consistently getting a lot of views and stuff. So if you guys haven't checked that out, check them out because we did a whole 10 episode series. I mean, you could find it on our
Yeah.
channel. Angelo Ruggiero, Dominic Cataldo. Who were some of the other guys we did? I mean, because we did 10 of them.
Oh, we did
Harry,
Charles Caniglia, Angelo. Uh, we did Peter Zaccaro, who I
Andrew
sort of met when
Curl,
he was just getting into the life.
Curl.
Andrew Curro, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I see little postings that this guy Center got out. This guy had life for murder. So
Yeah.
the government is getting a little softer, letting guys out. I don't believe in it. Maybe because I was so much against murder. I just don't think anybody has the right to take somebody's life. And then after the new year, we're going to talk about criminal justice reform because we got problems in this country. We got guns in this country. I never touched a gun after I left New York City in 1985. Never.
Yeah. That's a long time.
Yeah.
How many years is that?
That's already 38 years.
Damn,
Right?
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta be up there.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else do we got on here that people are asking? Jacqueline said, Sal, I know you love Foxy. How did you feel about Tommy? And did you trust him? Did John Gotti have sisters? There are too many cars on the streets of NYC.
It's interesting. Gotti had a bunch of brothers. And I only knew, like I said, I knew Richie, Vinny. I fixed a case for Vinny in Queens Criminal Court. Vinny, Richie, Peter, John, Gene. So I don't know if he had sisters. In those days, no women ever came to social clubs, by the way, back in those days. Yeah, I really was connected to Foxy. I'm going to do an interview. I'm going to do a little chat with his niece. They didn't know anything about Foxy. Next, on the 11th, we're going to do it. I don't know what day that is. Maybe Adrian will record it. It will be interesting to see and hear the questions they have for somebody who knew Foxy so close.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, maybe you can work out something with them, and I can set up a call like this, and you could get on there
Yeah,
with them, and we can
yeah.
record it, and and
Maybe
you
we
and
should do it on the Sunday, whatever date that is. What's today's date? The third.
yeah, the
Maybe
third,
we can do it on the 17th. That's
yeah.
interesting because he died on the 18th.
Oh, of December too,
Yeah,
right?
December 18th. Yeah,
The day before. Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
that'd probably be a good one to do. I mean,
And that's 49 years ago.
damn. Maybe they can provide some more insight too, and maybe the
Yeah,
brother or
yeah,
something.
pictures or something.
Yeah. I mean, what a trip it would be if they find some old pictures of you and him
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah,
That'd be neat, man.
yeah,
But we'll see what maybe we could work out something with them, and they could come on and share what they knew about him,
yeah,
and with their mom, because they have the fathers or the brother still alive, Foxy's, and the sister.
yeah, yeah. Their dad was Foxy's brother,
Yeah, and I think they mentioned that the sister was still around too.
Patricia.
Yeah.
I talked to her while we were shooting Sinatra Club in 2009.
Hmm.
Nice gal, you know. I told her how much I cared and the stories. And, recently last year when I went down to Florida, uh, we were doing a service for my son who died on November 10th last year. And then my wife got to talk with my first wife. And all she wanted to do is tell me a little bit about Foxy. And she just shook her head and smiled and said who he was and how much women just loved him. They just flocked to him. He wasn't talkative like me. He's quiet and very clever and very witty. And yeah, he would make women smile.
Yeah, well, we'll see what we can get if we can get them on, because that would provide a lot more insight and background
Yeah.
about him. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Let's see. The old sayings. I'm trying to see. Okay, here we go. Jack, he says, "Hello, Sal from Vancouver, Canada. I wondered if you ever met Paulie Walnuts from the Sopranos TV show. He was an associate of the Columbos in the 70s."
Wow. I did not meet Paulie Walnuts, but it's funny, he's from Vancouver. And I had a friend who did The Sandlot. And then maybe, I'm trying to think what year it was. Oh, it might have been 2003, 4, 5, something like that. The guy, Dave Evans, who was the director and the writer of Sandlot, invited me to Vancouver. They were shooting the follow up of Sandlot. And I got to meet one of the guys who was in The Sopranos. He was up there. That was the guy. I can't think. Maybe his name was Christopher or something.
Oh, really? Yeah,
I
yeah.
got to meet him.
Tony Soprano's in the movie. He was his
Nephew.
nephew. Yeah, nephew.
Yeah. I got to talk with him. He was a pretty
Yeah.
good actor. But no, I didn't know Paulie Walnuts.
Damn. So would you talk to?
Oh, we just
Christopher
talked about life, and I had told him that I met with David Chase
Yeah.
a year before the first episode had ever aired, and I don't know. I was in Vancouver in the hotel. He was in the hotel. We were sitting by a pool, and it was an interesting thing to hear about what he thought about his role in that series. I didn't tell him that I had the original scripts, which I had, the first one, the pilot. I gave it to my son Tony, and I didn't say that. I was not. I was not excited about The Sopranos. I thought it was a bogus, concept, but it worked.
Well, he played Spider from Goodfellas too.
Right?
That young.
Yeah.
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 He was both of them. Yeah.
But what was his name again?
Christopher in Sopranos, but I don't know what his real name was.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. He's a pretty good actor, man.
Yeah, good actor.
Bobby said, "Thanks, Sal and Adrian, for answering my questions. My grandson's back awake with the feed me look. LOL. Have a good day, gentlemen."
All right, that's cool.
That's cool, man. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, do you have any other things you want to bring up? I mean, we're almost to that.
I like to flash back because when I get an opportunity to visit a location, some of that stuff pops up. I did do something interesting with the guys from the UK.
What's that?
Right outside the Bergin Hunt Fish Club, maybe about 20, 30 yards away, there was a mailbox. And I said, hey, come on over to this mailbox. And he looked at me like kind of strange. And I leaned on the mailbox like this. And I said, there was a very famous drug dealer, really famous. His name was Herbie Sperling. People could look him up and read about him. I said, the FBI wanted him so bad. They tried to bug locations, and he was really smart. He never talked in restaurants and stuff, but he would go to this mailbox and lean on the mailbox like this. Okay. And the guy, Ross Kemp from UK, says, so what's the story here? I go, the FBI watched it day and night. And then when he would leave at the end of the day, they went in the middle of the night and put a recording device inside the mailbox.
And they got him for that, man. They got him on wire.
Yeah. He couldn't believe the feds did that. But that was one of the ways they started to do, strange things. Oh, yeah. Imperiale. There you go, Michael. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But anyway, I just sat there. It was a spontaneous thing. They go, what are you leaning on the bell? I said, come on, I'm going to tell you a story.
They're like, oh, man. See, I mean, you're around these old props and all these old things that things happen. And so obviously you're like, oh, yeah. You're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm looking at a mailbox. I'm talking about something that happened 50 years ago.
It's all it takes, man. That's why it's good to go back and actually go there and figure it all out. But
yeah. Somebody
said,
mentioned Herbie Sperling. What did he say?
Oh, he said Herbie Sperling was the smack king.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was big time.
He says, hello from Romania.
Romania. How are we doing in Romania?
Wonder what time it is over there right now.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Okay. You got anything else you want to add in then, Sal, before we wrap up?
Good show.
I'll
little inner workings of the past, how things, everybody can do that. Go back somewhere where you were 10, 20, 30 years ago. Can you remember what tickled you? I mean, it tickled me to be in front of the Bergin.
I'm sure, man. I'm going to play our little ad that I made.
Cool.
We'll play it. Support our podcast. We got a few. If you would like to support our podcast, we got a few items that you can purchase. All of these items can be found in the video description below. The first one is Sal's book, The Sinatra Club. You can get this personally autographed by Sal. The next one in our hottest seller is the 1972 Sinatra Club playing cards. Back in Sal's Mafia days, he opened up his own social club named the Sinatra Club. Many mobsters would come to this club, even when there were all-out wars going on between different families. They would come to the Sinatra Club and play cards. Some of the mobsters that played with these cards were John Gotti, Dominic Cataldo, Tommy DeSimone, Foxy, Jimmy Burke, Willie Boy Johnson, Tony Roach, Henry Hill, Joe DeFede, Danny Fatico, Gene Gotti, Peter Gotti, Joey Scopo, and many more. We're selling each one of these cards for $10 a piece. These cards are limited. We only got 1,000 of them. The next item is an autographed picture of Sal from his Mafia days. Another item is the Dinner with the Mobster card. You can get this autographed as well. This was an event that Sal had hosted in the past. We also got the Ubots production ticket from an event that Sal had hosted. This is also autographed. The last item we got to offer is Sal's book, The Sins of the Father. Again, you can find all these items in the video description below.
Okay.
There it is, man.
I think you got to delete that Sinatra Club book, Sins of the Father book. We don't have anymore.
Oh, remember, I've got it on Amazon. I got the Amazon link on there, so people can,
that's
if
good.
they want to get that.
Yeah, let them get it there. That's cool.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, they got quite a few, I'm sure, still on Amazon and stuff. I mean, they're still listing them in here.
We get another book, and then maybe we'll
put another one.
All. List them all.
And another thing, if you guys want to hear more stories from me and Sal, go on our Patreon. That's in the video description, and you can subscribe on there and hear more exclusive stories, that we can't come on here and talk about on YouTube. So, thanks for everyone for tuning in and enjoying another episode. If you haven't seen our video, there's 2 episodes we just posted this week that I have on the channel. Mine, the first one I did was with former smuggler, pot smuggler, Tim McBride. That was a really good episode I did. That's on my podcast, but it's on the same channel, the Invest in Yourself podcast. And then the other one me and Sal posted was yesterday with Sal going to prison with all the Purple Gang members. And there's a lot of good insight in there. And we did with some research, and Sal talks about what it was like to be in prison with all these Lewisburg guys. So check it out. It's on our channel. If you want to continue watching more videos from us and enjoy your Sunday. You got anything else you want to add in, Sal?
No, it's good. See you next week. We'll get Bill Mencken on.
Oh,
This
yeah.
guy is a wealth of information to do with film and music. He's pretty interesting guy.
Yep. And we'll end right there. See everyone on the next.